Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon or good morning, and welcome to our webinar today, How to Submit a UEDA Awards of Excellence application. This is a webinar that's designed to provide support and instructions for everyone who is considering submitting an application for the 2016 UEDA Awards of Excellence program. My name is Tim Hines, and I'm the Executive Director for UEDA, and I'll be serving as your MC today. The Awards of Excellence recognizes, as many of you know, the leading edge initiatives in university-based economic development, and the program really encourages their adoption among all other UEDA members throughout the country and throughout North America. So several housekeeping items before we begin. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to use the questions tab on the right-hand side in the right column, and we'll have an opportunity at the end to answer these questions following our presentation today. If for some reason you are having any technical difficulties, you can use the chat feature that's in the right-hand column, and that'll get you right to me, and I'll be able to answer any technical questions that you might have. But please keep your regular questions about the content in the questions feature, because we'll use that for our Q&A later today. Everyone throughout the presentation will be on mute, except for our presenters throughout today's webinar. And the information about our Awards of Excellence program can be found at the web URL awards.universityeda.org, and that's on your screen right there. Feel free to check that out as we're talking. That has links to our brochure. It has links to our to the foundation's document, to the application, and whatnot. And could be a very helpful resource as we go through our discussion today. As a reminder, the deadline for nominations is June 30th, 2016, and we will not be extending that this year. Today's webinar is being recorded, so you can access it at any time following today. We'll have it up online within the next few days, and that'll be right at that link, awards.universityeda.org, as well as on our YouTube channel. So feel free to check it out and gain additional insight and reference to this presentation. Now, first, a little bit about UEDA. Established in 1976, so this is our 40th anniversary. UEDA is North America's membership organization that brings together both the public and private higher education, as well as the private sector, public agencies, and community economic development stakeholders, all together in economic development. UEDA's members work to expand economic opportunity and prosperity within our communities and regions by leveraging a couple key aspects: education and talent, research and technology development, and community building and placemaking strategies. Our members include institutions of higher education, economic developers in the for-profit sector, and all of their partners, really, who are working to improve the competitiveness of their regions. It's all about collaboration, and that's what the Awards of Excellence are about, and that's what our organization is all about. Now, throughout news and information, public policy, educational programming, and best practice sharing, the UEDA works to expand economic opportunity within our communities by leveraging research, community and campus planning, talent development, and technology commercialization. And we're really working on some pretty exciting new initiatives, and I'd just like to take a minute to share a few of those with you today. Last year, and it's kind of core to our Awards of Excellence program, we released a new publication which was entitled The Higher Education Engagement in Economic Development, Foundations for Strategy and Practice, which we affectionately call the Foundations document. And this defines the roles of institutions of higher education in economic development. Now, we produced this document and this research in support of higher education institutions alongside our partner, the Association for Public Land-Grant Universities, or APLU. This publication is meant to inspire institutions to rethink and reinvent the relevant college or university for the 21st century as we move forward, and to think more comprehensively, really, about how economic development and engagement activities connect to each other and to an institution's core mission activities. So it makes that connection, that direct link, provides a taxonomy and a definition that we really have never had before. Now, in conjunction with this foundations effort, we're also launching a Journal of Economic Development in Higher Education within the next few months. We've also invested in a CRM system, and this is really helping build the foundation for our online presence. We have some great ideas in store for this tool that will enhance member engagement and drive collaboration amongst members. So we're pretty excited about that initiative. And then lastly, we have a major effort underway to grow and diversify our membership base to further our mission to advance knowledge and practice and economic engagement by all institutions of higher education and their collaborative partners. So that's that's a diversification effort that crosses various institution types, community colleges, four-year institutions, tier one research, all across the board, as well as HBCUs, tribal institutions, and so on. So we really want to diversify our membership base so that we are engaging that conversation across all institutions. So for more information about UEDA, including information on how to join, please visit our website at www.universityeda.org. And if you have any questions, my contact information is on there, and I'll be happy to chat with you more. Now, without further delay, I'd like to introduce today's panel of presenters. We have both Meredith Yeager, who is our Awards of Excellence Committee co-chair, alongside Maureen Clovers, and they will both be giving our presentation today. And we're going to kick it off with Meredith, and then we'll go into Maureen, and we'll follow up with some Q&A at the end. So, Meredith, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Good morning or afternoon for those of you on the East Coast. I'm pleased that you could all join us today for this webinar on the UEDA Awards of Excellence program. As Tim mentioned, I'm the co-chair of the Awards of Excellence Committee this year, along with Maureen Clovers, who you'll hear from shortly. My program, Aero Innovate, was a finalist and subsequent winner of one of the Awards of Excellence categories in 2014. So throughout this presentation, I hope to bring in some of my own personal experiences of going through this process, as well as actually explaining the process for you all to apply for the Awards of Excellence. At the end, Tim mentioned we do have some time for some question and answers. So if you have questions about my experience of going through this process, I'd be happy to answer those questions as well. So for the purpose of today's webinar, we want to help you prepare and formulate your submission for a UEDA Award of Excellence. So we'll be discussing first the benefits of applying for an award, key dates for this year's competition, so you know where you can find that application, when it's due, when you can expect to hear from us, those kinds of things. Eligibility requirements, so what do you need to do to apply? What are the requirements there? Certainly we will be talking about the new foundations document that Tim mentioned and how UEDA has revamped the awards categories and judging criteria this year. So for those of you who are listening in today who may have applied for an award through the UEDA Awards of Excellence program in the past, there are some changes. So we'll talk through those and the new categories and the new application and things of that nature today as well. And of course, as I mentioned before, the webinar will also provide an opportunity for question and answer with us, judges and committee members. And just for your information, the webinar should last less than an hour. So we'll hopefully answer your questions and get you on to start thinking about your application. So why apply for the UEDA Awards of Excellence program? Well, first, both the awards finalists and the winners receive benefits from the Awards of Excellence program. So, we follow up and we talk with the finalists and the winners after each one of our summits. And so we've gathered some information from them on what they have received and the value that those participants and the finalists have received from participating in the Awards of Excellence program. So first, recognition. Folks who are showcasing their programs at our summit receive recognition from their peers across the country and across North America, as Tim mentioned. Validation that their initiative and their program is novel, that it's valuable, and that their program is impactful. Certainly through grants and additional funding, the recognition that folks receive from being a part of our program provides some recognition and validation for credibility for new funding requests that peers have recognized that this is a valuable program. And so being able to use that information in grant applications is important for some of our programs as well. additional partners. Through the process, we let others know how they can engage with the institution, and there are folks who have found additional partners to engage and expand their programs through the Awards of Excellence program. Reputation. The awards finalists and winners, it shows that the institution is meaningfully engaged in economic development activities. And certainly for those of you who are listening in, you know that that is important. So being able to showcase that and tell the story that your institution is meaningfully engaged in those activities is important as well. And certainly valuable feedback, suggestions and feedback from peers during the final presentations is important too. A quick little story just about my case with Aero Innovate. Being recognized from my peers at the national level was critical in bringing attention to the program on a local level too. What we were doing was making an impact regionally, nationally, and even globally. But it was difficult for our local economic development entities to grasp the true impact of the program. But winning a UEDA award really spurred talk locally about what we were doing, and also additional awards locally within our regional EDOs and chamber organizations. So it really was the start of a snowball sort of effect for us. Best practices. Our case study was published on the UEDA website after the awards, and it was very visible. It was a very visible way for us to show our program's success and the impact that it had on the stakeholders. Elevating the program as a national best practices in a way that was easy for us to share by simply sending a link to the UEDA website. It really provided additional credibility to our program. It also set up Aero Innovate to receive additional funding through our state economic development agency, as well as federal funding through the Department of Defense. And finally, just going through the process. I can't emphasize that enough. Just going through the process of completing the application and answering those questions was a really valuable exercise for our team. It really made us think through our partnerships, our success measures, and really that impact of the program. So a quick look at the important dates for this year's Awards of Excellence process. So right now on the UEDA website, Tim mentioned it earlier, and I'll mention it again, it's awards.universityeda.org. So right now we are accepting applications for the Awards of Excellence program. We'll be accepting applications through June 30th. At that point, I'm going to talk a little bit about the application. So once you go on to the website and you find the application, some information that you're going to want to have handy. You can download the application in advance, and we encourage you to type up your application answers in Word, have someone else proofread it, look at it, for content and brevity and clarity for our judges. But, we want to know about your project. We want to know who your partners are. We want to know, like I said, a quick project summary. What problem you're addressing, what needs are you meeting in your community or in your region. We want to hear about the uniqueness and the, being original, and certainly the results and the impact in your success metrics. So just a couple of things for you to be thinking about in what we're going to be looking at. I know Maureen's going to talk in more detail about that in a bit as well, but just wanted to point that out to you. At that point, after the June 30th deadline, our committee and our judges will have 1 month to process, review, and select this year's finalists. So finalists will be notified no later than August 1st. The finalists will be expected to attend and present their initiative at the UEDA Annual Summit on October 16th through the 19th. And new this year, we will be hosting a webinar with all of the finalists to review the process for the finalist presentations at the summit. So talking about those logistics, what the expectations are for your presentation. And again, it's at the summit, that October 16th through 19th time frame, where the finalists will be judged by their peers based on the presentation that they make. And then finally, kind of the culmination of the summit is the awards banquet on October 19th, where our award winners will be announced. So for eligibility, to be eligible for the UEDA Awards of Excellence program, your organization must be a member of UEDA. If you are not currently a member, we do ask that you join prior to submitting your application. It will make life a whole lot easier for all of us. And if you have questions about membership, please direct those to Tim, and his contact information will be shared with you at the end of today's program. If your initiative or project is affiliated with a UEDA member, the application must be submitted by the UEDA member. Your initiative should be at least 24 months old. Please note that this is just a guideline. If your initiative is not quite yet complete, or if it was started after July 1st of 2014, it really should be at a stage where significant progress and actual benefits can be measured or are clearly anticipated. So, and really this is for your benefit, because it will make your application more competitive the more value and impact that you're able to share with the judges. You can resubmit an initiative or project provided that it has not already won a UEDA Award of Excellence. If your project was a finalist in a previous year and you want to resubmit, your application needs to show new and significant results that it didn't have when you were a finalist the first time around. So you can submit more than one project. We know that you all are doing wonderful, great things on your campuses, in your communities, and helping to grow your local economies. So we want to hear about it. That's what this is about. It's about sharing best practices. So we encourage you to submit more than one project because we want to hear about it. There's no limit on the number of projects, just on the length of your application. So I think I'm going to stop there and pass it over to Maureen, who will review the new revamped awards categories and the judging criteria. So Maureen?
Okay, thanks, Meredith. What you see on your screen here on the right-hand side is a copy of the cover of our new document, Higher Education Engagement and Economic Development Foundations for Strategy and Practice. And this was an enormous effort undertaken by our own Eva Klein and the Body of Knowledge Committee in conjunction with APLU's SciSub Committee. So that's sort of our partner organization. And what they've done is really create the very first framework to explain what is higher education engagement and economic development, and what are the various components and the different ways that higher education contributes to economic development. So what we've done this year is align our program categories with the Foundations document. So previously there were 5 categories of awards, and now there are 6, and the 6 are mapped to this Foundations for Strategy and Practice. We've also changed the judging criteria, and they are now weighted. Previously, each judging criteria had the same weight, and now they have different weights to reflect their relative importance. We cannot urge you strongly enough to use this Foundations document to assist you in selecting the category of award that you're applying for, and also in developing your application. It really helps highlight best practices in economic development projects, and it will help you think about different ways to highlight what you've been doing. And you see here the address where you can find the full document, foundations.universityeda.org. Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the 6 award categories. So what the Foundations document did was say, you know, there are really 3 primary areas in which higher education is involved in economic development: talent development, innovation, and place. So those are the 3 large circles. But there are also things that occur at the intersection of these categories. So we therefore have 6 award categories. We have talent, innovation, and place. And we also have a category where talent and innovation intersect, where innovation and place intersect, and where place and talent intersect. So I'm going to go through each of these to give you an idea of what sorts of projects would fall into each. But again, it's really critical to look at the Foundations document, because the Foundations document has bulleted lists of the types of projects that fit into each. And it really might even trigger some brainstorming on the part of you and your team about projects that you might not have even thought of that really would be competitive for an award. So talent is really human capital development for the 21st century knowledge economy. So this includes things like degree and non-degree programs, experiential education, and active alignment of curricula to industry needs. Innovation, and this is different than creativity and originality, which is a criteria, which I'm going to come back to in a minute, because we expect every project to be creative and original. But innovation, this is talking really about the primary purpose of the initiative. So here we're looking at initiatives that deal with everything on the continuum from basic research through applied, translational, problem-oriented, and industry-contracted R&D, cooperative extension services, tech transfer, that sort of thing. And place is an interesting one because, of course, everything happens in a specific place. But here we're looking at where the primary purpose of the project is to create places where people want to live, create jobs, create businesses, raise their families, and age and retire. So it's really making the community competitive. And that could be in areas such as improving health, education, the environment, housing, safety, access to arts and culture, that sort of thing. All the things that colleges do in addition to talent and innovation to make it a creative and attractive place to live. So this could be either things that are very much focused on a relatively small area of the campus. So it's a great example. The conference is going to be held at a hotel in Roanoke, which is a public-private partnership that involves Virginia Tech, which is our conference sponsor, to restore a historic railroad hotel and use that restoration, use that revitalized hotel as the centerpiece for a revitalized downtown Roanoke. So that's an example of a place-based initiative that's focused on a small geographic area on the downtown of Roanoke and in fact on that specific site as well. But this could also include broader placemaking initiatives focused on a broader region. For example, improving the health of Native Americans in northern Alaska or something. That would be an example. And then we've also got categories for what occurs at the intersection. So talent and innovation is ones obviously that involve projects and initiatives that synergistically connect talent and innovation. One category of projects that we've gotten a lot of in the past and we didn't know where to place it, but now we do, is entrepreneurship education projects or projects that connect students with entrepreneurs. So those this year would clearly be in talent and innovation. We also have innovation and place initiatives. So those are where things such as university research and technology parks, incubators, accelerators, that's where those types of projects are going to go. And finally, we have talent and place, so projects and initiatives that synergistically connect talent and place. So these could include things such as K-12 school improvement partnerships, local government training institutes, and other types of higher education involvement in regional government or economic development organizations. Okay, next slide. So here are judging criteria. So these are similar to the ones last year, but we've weighted them. We've also added a new category and we've combined two previous categories. So number 4 there, replicability, scalability, and sustainability, used to be two separate categories, two separate judging criteria. But because there's a significant amount of overlap, we've combined those into one. So replicability, scalability, and sustainability is now a single judging criteria. In addition, we've added number 3, demonstration of excellence in leadership, collaboration, and strategic partnerships. When we were looking to realign the categories with the new foundations document, and we were looking at last year's categories, we used to have a category that was around partnerships and leadership. And then we thought, really, any project, whether it's talent, innovation, or place, should demonstrate leadership, collaboration, and partnerships. This really should be a cross-cutting judging criteria, so we've added that. So now we've got originality and creativity, 25%, impact, 25%, demonstration of excellence in leadership, collaboration, strategic partnerships, 15%, and replicability, scalability, and sustainability, 15%, and then an overall 20%. And I'm going to delve into what each of these really mean to the judges next. Next slide, please. Okay, so originality and creativity, as I mentioned, this is something that we expect to see in projects across the category. So we're looking to see, have you made a new and original contribution to this category of projects? Does the initiative introduce an innovative way of thinking and doing? Is it something that can be used to build upon this foundations document? Are these even projects that we haven't even thought of as a means of higher education involvement and economic development? Or does it represent an important new innovation in the way that a more established type of project or initiative operates? So for example, expanding to include non-traditional participants, offering new modes of service delivery, altering established incentive structures, or establishing new measurement and tracking systems. And so basically here, again, we're looking for you to say in a very succinct manner, how is your project unique? For example, every year we get, maybe 10 projects focused on entrepreneurship education. Okay, well, how is yours different from the ones that are in all the other applications we're getting? Or we get a lot of applications on business accelerators or partnerships. Well, again, how is yours different? That's what we want to see. Okay, next slide. Impact. In the past, the judges have felt that this has overall been the weakest link in most applications. So we really, really encourage you to focus on this. What we're looking for is twofold. One, we're looking for a clear, logical plan that shows how you are going to track your impact and track progress. So really think through, what are the strategic objectives? What is the need that you're trying to meet? Okay, and how does that translate into short and long-term metrics? And then we're also looking for you to have actually demonstrated that you have been successful in meeting your intended outcomes. So has there been a significant impact, and have you achieved your goals? So again, we're looking for a really tight tie between what your goals are, how these translate into metrics, and how you've actually achieved them. So we want them to be quantitative. It would be great if you could have a mix of short and long-term impacts, of input, output, and outcome impacts. But also don't be afraid to share qualitative information with us as well. But we really are trying to push you to put specific quantitative metrics in your application, and that's something we're going to be looking for as we judge the application and also in the finalist presentations. And to help with that, we've actually put a table in the application to kind of help you force your thinking on this. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next one is this new criteria, leadership, collaboration, and strategic partnerships. So this is looking at, for you to identify the stakeholders, and show how you consulted them and engaged them in both the conception and implementation phase. It's looking at the role of your institution as a leader or convener in developing and implementing the project or initiative to address a regional need. And it's looking for partnerships with others, in the private and nonprofit sector, other institutions of higher education. We'd like to see more of that, or other relevant collaborators. But again, one thing that's really critical is in the past we've often seen a laundry list of partners, just we've partnered with the following, colon and kind of a list. We really want to understand what your role was as the leader and convener, and we want to understand what the role of a couple key partners is. So really be sure to tell us what each partner was responsible for and what they did. And what we want to see is that this leadership and collaboration and partnerships is not in name only, but that really it's a plus factor that you're helping to achieve your outcomes because you have these partners, that they're really part of the strategy and really baked into what the project is. Next slide. Yeah, okay. Next we have replicability, scalability, and sustainability. So this is looking for, could another institution, for example, who comes to the UEDA Summit, take something away from your project that they could apply at their institution or in their region? Could they scale it up or down or modify it for different contexts? Will this work at a smaller institution, a larger institution? Will it work, if it's in a rural context? It doesn't necessarily need to work in an urban context, but will it work in other rural areas of the country? So is there really a takeaway for other participants? And is there a sustainable business model? If you're solely dependent on, a single grant funding stream and that goes away, will you be able to carry on? Probably not. So we're looking for, are you getting, fees from participants? Do you have a diversified grant funding stream? What is the plan to continue on? Next slide. And finally, we have sort of an overall sort of a wildcard criteria. So this is a subjective opportunity for the judges to score, give sort of a plus factor based on their individual opinion. This is sort of the wow factor, anything that doesn't really fit into the other 4 judging criteria. So when the judges review this, they're obviously going to be dependent on looking at your application. So make sure that all the information we need is in your application, although it's going to have to be very succinct. But at the summit, as Meredith mentioned, we have finalist presentations. So the top 2 to 4 finalists in a certain category give their presentation to the audience. And often in these presentations, we've got, 50, 60, 70 individuals in the audience. So it's a really great opportunity to get feedback. But then the winner is actually selected by the audience among the finalists. So the judges select the finalists, the audience selects the winner. And the audience will score based on all these factors, but they're also going to look at the quality of your presentation. So they're going to look at how you presented it, how clear it was that your presentation met these criteria, and also how well you did during the Q&A, because there's really a great back and forth with the audience and the presenter and a lot of information sharing. And they're going to ask some really good detailed questions, and so that's going to factor into it as well. Next slide. Okay, so we encourage you all very much to submit an application. Again, in order to win, you have to be present at our conference, but of course you'd want to attend our conference anyway because it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be in beautiful Roanoke, Virginia, which is in the Appalachian Mountains, and we're going to have some great speakers. Virginia Tech is the one that's sort of convening and hosting the summit, and as you know, they're a wonderful research university, and so they're going to really bring a lot of great speakers and a lot of great energy to this conference. And in keeping with the theme of our foundations document and our new revamped awards program, the theme is talent and innovation in place. So where those 3 things intersect in the realm of higher education. And it's October 16th to 19th, and you can get more information about it and also register at www.uedaannualsummit.org. And with that, I think we've finished the canned portion of our presentation, and I'll turn it back over to Tim to take some questions.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. And I'll try to direct the questions based on the content that you provided. So the first one is, can you help us understand the idea of metrics and what it is that you're looking for within this particular area? And I think that probably falls on Maureen. So Maureen, can you take that one?
Sure, that's a good question. So what you want to look at is a mixture of short and long term and input, output, and outcome metrics. So input metrics are probably the least important to us. They're things like, dollars spent. They're all the resources expended in order to achieve the goal. The outputs are sort of what happened on the other side, and the outcomes are, did you really achieve your goal, which is really the most important, although you may not have impacts for outcome metrics for quite some time. So that's why it's helpful to have a mix depending on where you are in the project. So let's see, to take a couple examples from what we talked about, if you have let's say an entrepreneurship education initiative, so that would fall into the talent and innovation category. You might want to track things like, the number of students participating. So that's kind of an input metric, right? That's something you can track right away. But then you want to look at maybe the number of students who actually created businesses. Well, that's more of an output because you're giving them information about entrepreneurship and getting them into the program, and then you hope at the end, if that's your goal anyway, for them to start businesses, that you track how many started businesses. And then outcomes, if the goal of that is really you're looking at the regional need, that there's insufficient job creation, maybe you'd be tracking the number of jobs created, X years out by student-led businesses. If you have a business accelerator incubator project, so that would be at the intersection of innovation and place, you would be looking at somewhat similar things, but you know, the number of companies assisted, the number of companies that launch new products. Maybe you'd be looking at the increase in revenues after they graduated from the accelerator. You could look at things like patents. That's sort of an intermediate metric. So that kind of thing. If it's a place metric and your focus is on improving health for a certain population, then you know, if it's a nurse training program or telemedicine, you'd be tracking things like, you know, how many nurses went through the program, how many graduated, but then you'd also be looking at, okay, great outcome metric would be, well, did diabetes rates, you know, among this particular population that was served decrease, that kind of thing. Does that answer the question?
It does for me. Thank you. Which category should an organization pursue if it feels it could address all three elements of talent, innovation, and place altogether? So I guess that's also you, Maureen.
Well, that's good news, because we think that ideally a project would somewhat be able to address all three. The application allows you to select a primary category and a secondary category. So what I would do is look at the foundations document and try to figure out where your project primarily fits. And again, in the foundations document, there are literally sometimes like 15 bullets of examples under each of these. So I think for almost any project, you should be able to find it more or less listed in the foundations document. And then you can select a secondary category. So say that your project is entrepreneurship education, but it's very tied to a particular place and the needs of place, right? Maybe you'd select talent plus innovation as your primary category and select place as your secondary, or something of that nature.
And I think it's important, you know, to reiterate, I know it was brought up in the presentation, I think it's important to reiterate that just because a project is innovative doesn't mean it falls into the innovation category. You know, that's more of the criterion of creativity. Innovation is more of tangible innovation, like research and that sort of
exactly,
activity.
R&D. Oh, the other thing that I should probably mention is, if need be, the judges will move your project if it fits in another category better. We don't want to be doing a lot of that, and we really would like you to put it in the correct category, but do the best you can, and then if we feel like it's not in the correct category, we will move it.
Great. And this is something that maybe, this question, maybe you can both tag team. And there's actually two questions, but I think the answer you provide will answer both of them. So the first is, we are in the first few years of our project, so results are still not quantified. Is that an issue? And then the second one is, how firm is the 24-month guideline? If we have an overarching economic development initiative that wraps in existing initiatives, but also created new initiatives and also has impacts, can that be nominated?
Okay, I think I can take that one, Tim.
Okay.
Great question, or questions. I think there were multiple questions in there, but first of all, if you have a stellar program and it is still in its infancy, and it's not, you know, it was started after what we say is our July 1 of 2014, that's not really a hard and fast date on there. We still want to hear about it. If you have a program that is really making an impact in your community, we want to hear about it. Here are a couple of things that I just want to point out that the judges will be looking for. So maybe you don't have those success metrics and that complete story to tell. You know, it's not a mature program, but what we want to know as judges, we want to know that you have a plan. We want to know that you have an idea of what the impact your program or initiative is having, or what it intends to have. So include in your application what you're tracking. What are the things that you're tracking, those inputs, those outputs, and maybe there's not impact yet. So going back to, what Maureen was talking about in terms of the application and that impact side. So include your inputs, include outputs if you have them. And if you don't have impact, tell us what you are measuring and how you will measure impact when you get to that point. And also keep in mind, again, that the success measures can be quantitative and qualitative. And, if you have some of both, that will make a stronger application as well. So we do encourage you, if you have a program that is maybe only 12 or 18 months old and it's really taking off and it's successful, and maybe, again, going back to one of the questions, it's part of a larger initiative that has been going on maybe more than 24 months, still apply. We want to hear about it, and we want to be able to share those best practices with other folks too, because that's part of what the awards program and process is about, is sharing your best practices with other folks so that they can learn from what you're doing. So, great question.
And I think if I could add on to that too, I think that we saw within the past few years that Arizona State University had been submitting similar programs and wasn't selected as a finalist, and it wasn't until they actually broke out their programs into various applications that they were able to see some success with they were able to really focus on the criteria and focus on the category and really submit based on that. And that's where they ended up seeing success with the Awards of Excellence program. So I think that, if you do have multiple programs and you think that it's worthwhile, splitting them up into various categories, maybe sometimes it helps and strengthens the actual project if it's more aligned with the categories and criterion specifically than this overarching broad project. Am I right in stating that?
Yeah, Tim, and I would say that if you, and using the Arizona State as an example, they were able to take that and really focus. And so it was much easier for the judges and the committee and their peers to understand, what those direct impacts were in that specific category. So again, you might have a big project that has lots of components, but, each one of those components is its own project and has its own impacts. And sometimes it's easier to tell the story and for people to understand the story and how it can be, sustainable and replicable, going back to some of those criteria points. Sometimes it's easier for people to understand it in small chunks. And in Arizona State's case, that was the case. It was easier for folks to understand the individual programs within the overarching bigger picture that they were trying to accomplish.
Great. The next one is, notice that there is a finalist teleconference listed for September under the important dates. What is that, and how will that help with the application process?
Sure, Tim, I'll take that one. This is Meredith. So once we have all of the finalists will have a lot of questions about logistics and the presentation and the timing and how things will flow at the summit, and questions about registering for the summit. And all of those questions will be answered at that teleconference. That will give you, the finalists, all of the information that they will need. We will be there to answer any questions about preparing presentations, about the judging process, and all of that we will answer during that time. It certainly is not mandatory, but highly, highly encouraged that you participate, because it will help make your presentation as a finalist stronger if you know what to expect. I know certainly from my perspective, I didn't have that opportunity a couple of years ago. So when I agreed to be co-chair of this committee, I thought, gosh, how can we improve this process, and what would help the finalists? And I thought, gosh, if we had something a month or so out just to go through the process and answer questions, I thought that would be incredibly helpful. So I hope that will be helpful for the finalists this year, and we'll be able to answer any and all questions at that time.
Great. And something else, that's something that's new this year, and I think something else that's been brought up as a question. Is it correct that the application is a Word document and not an online form this year? The idea is to submit the Word document and not input anything into an online form.
Tim, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, that is the case. It's a little bit easier on the back end to compile all of them together for our judges, and I think it's also a little bit easier on the applicants themselves, because you're probably compiling something in Word anyway. Why not give you a template to do that and just utilize that template to process? So it does make things a little bit easier. We'll end up PDFing them and compiling them all together based on their awards categories, and then presenting that entire packet to the judges for review in July. So I think it was just really an ease in process that prompted that change, and we wanted to make sure it was easy for both the judges, for myself, and for the applicants. So hopefully that'll help, and we'll try it this year. It's something new. A lot of new things this year.
I do want to add, though, please,
yeah.
I'm sorry, this is Maureen, please stick to the word limits, though.
Yes.
We were hoping for 50 nominations, which would be great, but we all have limited time in 1 month to read them, so we won't read anything over the word limit. So if it says 500 and you paste in 1,000, we're only going to read the first 500 words and make a decision based on that.
Right. Thanks. Something else that's new this year is the actual weighted scores. So this question asks, can you explain the scoring balance between the judging committee and the summit participants? It appears the summit participant have input on only 20% of the score.
Okay, sorry if that was unclear. No, so the key is the judges will determine the finalists. So if we get, say we get 50 nominations, they're going to be in 6 categories. For each of those categories, we'll determine the top 2 to 4 that we think really are worthy of being finalists and should present at the conference. So those institutions will be informed that based on all 5 judging criteria, the judges have determined that they're a finalist. Okay, so at that point, so if you're not a finalist, the audience does not hear your pitch at all. Then when you go to the summit, if you're a finalist, you do the presentation and the audience members judge you on all 5. They don't actually give you a score for each of the 5. It's a composite score, but they're asked to consider all 5 of the judging criteria, including the strength of your presentation, when ranking the presentations in that category. So ultimately, the audience determines the winner among the finalists, but the judges determine the finalists. But both groups use the same set of criteria.
Sounds good. Is it possible to merge multiple projects under one umbrella to be, quote unquote, the project that is submitted, meaning that the project is more of a program? Could you speak to this a little bit?
You can submit programs, but we're really looking more for projects and initiatives. I think you're going to be much more competitive, especially because we're asking you to describe this very succinctly. And so if it's, we really want you to address sort of what the regional need is, what the goals are, and how this project or initiative plays in. So in some cases, a program might be able to do that, but please don't just give us this is, all our economic development engagement efforts and a laundry list. That will not be competitive. So look at what a specific project is. I mean, if the program is, improving Native American health through telemedicine, I mean, you could argue whether that's a project or a program, but that's very specific. So that would work. But please don't give us just everything you do in the area of economic engagement.
I think that's fair. With that, I do want to be cognizant of the time and before the hour is up. I will reiterate some of the key important dates that are coming up. Our application deadline will be on June 30th. Our finalist notification will be on or about August 1st. We'll have our UEDA annual summit where finalist presentations will take place. And that'll be October 16th through the 19th. So you have some time to plan once selected from August to plan to attend the summit in October. But we do encourage you to attend anyway in October. If you're not selected as a finalist, or if you don't even apply for the Awards of Excellence, it's still a great event and great conference. Really focused on best practice sharing. It's something that we really pride ourselves in is sharing best practices and being able to take tangible ideas back with you. The summit program over the course of time has evolved into more of a workshop interactive environment where we try to incorporate as much interaction as we possibly can. So in addition to the finalist presentations, it's a great opportunity to get some ideas in all sectors of talent innovation in place to take back with you to your campuses and institutions and organizations. And that culminates in the awards banquet, which is held on October 19th at the summit, just as a dinner. And it's a nice celebration. This year is our 40th anniversary, so we are planning some special activities for the banquet, and I encourage everyone to attend that as well. You can find more information about the UEDA Annual Summit at uedaannualsummit.org. Find out more information about the program at awards.universityeda.org. And then you can also email me. The easiest way to communicate my email address is info@universityeda.org. That goes directly to me, and I will be able to either answer your questions about the process, what I can as far as the categories and criterion go, or if it's something that's beyond my level, I will definitely share it with the committee and get a response back to you in some fashion. So with that, I do want to thank Maureen and Meredith for being with us today, as well as all of you. We look forward to reviewing your applications and your submissions over the course of the summer, and wish you all the best of luck in your applications and as you close out the school year. Thank you very much for being with us today.